Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called I Am the Boss. After working at a toxic office job for a few years, I decided it was time for me to leave. I gave my a bit more than 2 weeks notice and started to organize my myriad of tasks to hand off. I was an accounts payable assistant, and the company had created my position and added various tasks with other departments over the years. I helped with accounting, inventory, audits, customer service, marketing, sales and events. My primary manager, we'll call her Barb, was the accounting manager. There was always a struggle because she assigned the extra work to me but then refused to acknowledge that I did jobs for other departments than hers. She was the primary reason for my leaving. Every day I asked her if we can have a meeting to discuss my different tasks, how I've organized them and how to complete them, as no one does these tasks in the company but me. She refuses to meet with me and reminds me to keep up with deadlines. No problem. For the next 2 weeks, Barb doesn't remove a single task from my plate. She refuses to meet with me for any reason and consistently sends condescending emails about the lack of work effort she's seeing from me. They all included the same message: I am the boss, just do your job. I brought this to the owner's attention since I work closely with her, about how I felt like there was no bridge to the next person in my position. I was told, Barb runs the accounting department, so do what she says. Yes ma'am. I showed up every day and worked as if I wasn't leaving. Other managers asked me who was taking over tasks I handled for them. I referred them to Barb, who told them she handled accounting, not their departments, and to stop wasting her time. She then told me to only work on accounting related tasks, as that was my position, regardless of the last few years of my tasks being spread across the company. I got this in writing and printed a few copies to cover myself. On my last day, Barb called me into her office and scolded me for ignoring 75% of my duties. Specifically, inventory was due that day and I hadn't begun it. I reminded her of her accounting work only demand, which she claimed she wasn't referring to inventory too. She told me to compile a list of all the non-accounting jobs I handled, to which I was prepared with a list. Many of these had deadlines missed or coming soon, but I had ignored them per her instructions. I was told that if I didn't meet my deadlines for the week, she would not give me a good reference. She also told me to stay as late as I need to finish up. I didn't need her reference and I wasn't staying late on my last day. I forwarded the email of her telling me not to complete any other jobs to the owner, along with the list of missed or closed deadlines that wouldn't be met now. Then I clocked out and left and never returned. This was years ago, and from what I've heard, she still runs the accounting department for them. I was the one blamed for tasks not being completed. Oh well. The next story is called Priority. I've been working as the marketing director for a very small company for the past year or so. The job started out nice enough, but it quickly went downhill when we had about 10 of our 35 full-time staff members quit over the span of a few months. They all left for various reasons, relating to the awful bosses, who I will call Stacy, poor management tactics and her team's attitude. The staffing issue became my issue when I was forced to pick up the slack for everyone who had left. I was being asked to do a number of miscellaneous tasks, some of which I was nowhere near qualified for, all of which took away from my time to do my actual job of marketing. Despite this, Stacy would consistently make a fuss over certain marketing objectives not being completed when she wanted. I would always explain to her that because she had delegated me to do specific work elsewhere, I had no time to do the marketing projects we had brainstormed. She, of course, never listened. As time went on, we lost 5 more staff members, including our secretary. I was moved to cover her position at the front desk full-time for 5 weeks, during which I couldn't get any of my actual job doing marketing done. All of my projects came to a standstill, and we even lost touch with one of our vendors who I had been working with. The minute I was able to return to my own office, Stacy and her team were hounding me for marketing materials that in their minds should have been done by now. But I explained to them that as I essentially had a different job for the last 5 weeks, I wasn't allowed any time to work on them. I was beyond frustrated at this point and began looking for other jobs. About 2 weeks ago, I got an offer from a much better company and handed in my notice to Stacy. Stacy was flustered and asked me before I leave to finish a list of projects that she had kept putting off. Specifically, she wanted a project, Project A, that she had repeatedly pushed to the back burner since December to be done. I I was the only one who could do this project, and she knew it, and she desperately wanted it done before I left, since its completion meant she could put off hiring my replacement for a while. In our meeting, she told me specifically that Project A was the priority, and I was to do no other work until it was completed. One of the other reasons why it would sometimes take so long to get certain marketing projects done is because they required Stacy and her team's input and approval. This was mostly for design-related projects. I would make an initial design, get their input on what looked good, change the design, and then wait for them to approve it before sending it to a printer or manufacturing company. All of this happened over email, and no matter how many reminders I would send, Stacy would always drag her feet in responding. It could sometimes take an entire week to do what should have taken maybe 3 hours. I mentioned this problem to Stacy before, and she again never listened. And guess who has spent the last week and a half dragging her feet to respond to my emails about it? Stacy. Now, I could have been working on other items on the laundry list of work she wanted me to do while I waited for Project A's approval. However, since she explicitly told me Project A was the priority, not a single thing on her list got done. The best part is there's not enough time for me to fully complete Project A now either, since she took so long to respond. I will be handing off to her all the design files, most of which she can't even open since she doesn't have the right software, and then leaving on Tuesday. After that, not my problem. The third story is called By the Book. Many years ago, I was a kitchen manager for a very popular restaurant concept. My location was fairly busy, and there were a lot of office-related tasks, including placing food orders twice a week. Over the years, I developed a spreadsheet to make the ordering process faster and ensure that when I was on vacation, proper food levels were maintained. After 6 years and multiple praises from higher-ups about efficiency, we got a new district manager. This person came in and was very by the book. Everything had to be done as per company policy, and we could not deviate. One day, the DM noticed I was using my spreadsheet to calculate my food order for the week. I was told it was not company sanctioned and I could not use it. I explained that it saved me 2 hours each time, and I used that time to help others. That did not sit well with the DM, and I was told to stop using it immediately. The DM asked the general manager if I had any other shortcuts that were unauthorized. Because the GM wanted to stay on the DM's good side, they spilled the beans on all of the non-compliant methods I used. Now, I was no longer allowed to use any of the time-saving tools I created. As I was no longer allowed to use these tools, I emailed them to myself and added a password to lock them down on the work computer. No longer usable. But I added a bit extra to the spreadsheet to make it self-destruct if someone attempted to hack the file. The self-destruct would delete the contents of the file along with the contents of my personal folder. Time to get a new job. I gave 6 weeks notice and was greeted by the DM the next day. I was asked to turn in my keys and was promptly fired. 2 days later, it was order day. The GM called me and asked for the password to the spreadsheet I could not use. Since no one but me knew how to order without the spreadsheet, they were panicking. I promptly told the GM I was unable to help, and if they wanted the password, the DM would have to call me personally and ask. That never happened. I got multiple calls and texts from the GM, other managers, and even a DM from another district. They even called my wife. They tried to guess the password, and on the third try, even without a warning prompt, the program worked perfectly. All contents of my personal file were permanently deleted, and the spreadsheet deleted its contents and saved itself with no contents. Now there was nothing I could do. They were warned. Multiple missed calls after that. I found out later that the GM had to spend 4 hours doing the food order and had to pay a late fee for ordering late. The district manager was demoted 3 months later. I like to think it started with me, but I am sure there were other factors. The last story is called Commission Cap. Back in 2014, I was selling cars, Ford specifically. For all those who aren't car buffs, both the Mustang and F-150 were getting ground-up redesigns for 2015. And Ford had just announced that there would be no Shelby Mustangs or Raptor F-150s for 2015. Instantly, we were fielding several calls a day about these vehicles. And almost overnight, the inventory we had came with a 10 to 20k market adjustment due to demand. Our GM loved both vehicles and traded for them whenever he could, because he loved chatting about them with buyers. We had 21 Raptors and 6 Shelbys still on the lot when I sold a ruby red Raptor extended cab at 10k over sticker the last week of the month. Both are crazy numbers for the less than 200 new cars we sold per month. With the trade, I was due about $4,200 in commission, but my check was about $1,700 light. Come the first Saturday morning meeting after payday, we were told that commissions on such vehicles would be kept at $2,500. Retrospective to last month, per previously ignored provision in our pay plan. There was much grumbling, but management stood firm, citing how incredibly easy Raptor/Shelby deals were. They weren't wrong about that. There was no such thing as a test drive until the deal was done. You could absolutely drive the car before you bought it, but only after we had a signed buyer's order, credit application, and the deal had been submitted and approved. They were generally in and out in under 45 minutes, if not half an hour. But still, the dealership gets free money and doesn't want to share. I talked to several other salespeople who were all angry, and we collided. I ripped up a little Excel widget that would take the invoice price/holdback, add in pack and whatnot, and spit out a sales price that would produce an exactly $2,500 commission. I sent it to every salesperson we had, and everyone used it. It only took 3 signed buyer's orders with seemingly arbitrary numbers for the desk to figure out what we were doing and to call another meeting. That meeting was basically management yelling at us and the entire sales staff calmly saying, "Remove the cap or you'll never see another signed buyer's order that exceeds it." The cap was lifted 3 days later. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and would like to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. And if you want to support me even further, why don't you check out the channel membership? I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.